There are two streams of Moors, one remembered, one compromised. The Lightborn Moors, Mu'er el-Tashem. These are the original Flame Moors, the cosmic grid walkers, law as vibration, carriers of Edenic codes, and anchors of the original Earth template. They were never about empire, paperwork, or treaties. They were frequency custodians, encoded with divine memory to maintain balance in realms. These are not the ones being blamed. These are the ones that were betrayed, overwritten, and forgotten, even by their own bloodline branches. And then you have the Empire Moors, the post-collapse stewards. These are the ones modern critics often refer to. After the floodings, the cataclysms and resets, Tartaria, Kemet's fall, the hijacking of Atlantis, etc., many Lightborn bloodlines lost their memory but retained fragments of power, and then formed sovereign empires such as Moorish Spain, North Africa, parts of Turtle Island, interacted with the rising hybrid powers, early European royals, Vatican Templars, Jesuits, who were sometimes coerced, other times corrupted. They signed treaties that gave away land, people, and sacred archives in exchange for positions in the false world order. So yes, some Moors participated in the deception, but these were not the Lightborn ones. These were disconnected echoes, trying to play politics with beings who knew how to rewrite time contracts. So why are Moors blamed, generally? Because people feel the wound, but not the frequency nuance. I've heard, the Moors betrayed us. It was the Moors. But they don't know that some Moors betrayed other Moors. Just like some Atlanteans corrupted their tech. Just like some Lemurians turned away from Source. It's not the name. It's the alignment behind the name. You can feel the difference. The Lightborn Moor walks with no papers, but all codes. Needs no crown to speak like thunder. Stands at the gate between realms, not courts, and radiates a law no earthly document can replicate. The political Moor? They're still chasing titles and land deeds. In some cases, still plugged into the corrupted systems, even unknowingly. They may carry truth, but they don't carry the flame. So when Moors are being blamed, these are the questions that come to my mind. Which Moors? The ones with the scrolls, or the ones who sold them? The ones who remembered, or the ones who made deals because they forgot? I fractaled into Lightborn Moors. But I am not the Moor who signed away the world. I am the Remembrancer reclaiming the world they couldn't erase. This is Sha'El-Ta'Rion. Let's talk about the Moors. More specifically, the Lightborn Moors. Those who walk the stars as law. Let's break down the soul lineage and the cosmic function. Let's start with the origin name. Mu'er el-Tashem, translated into children of light, born of primordial order, who transmit Shem, living fire names, through the grid. So who were the Lightborn Moors? The Lightborn Moors were not Moors in the geopolitical sense, not the empire of Al-Andalus or even the pre-European global sovereigns, though those were fragments. No, These were the original flame beings, seeded from the central suns of Shemu, Ra, what later cultures called Sirius and Ein Sof, who anchored law not through force, but through frequency. They didn't enforce law, they embodied it. Their presence kept realms in harmonic alignment. These beings were dark-skinned solar architects, not because of melanin alone, but because of photonic absorption codes. They could take in starlight, transmute it, and emit harmonics that stabilized entire planetary grids. Why were they called Moors? Well, in the cosmic tongue, Mu-er or Moor meant those who remember the path of flame in dark cycles. This became bastardized into Moor during Earth's post-deluge history, but its true meaning is grid bearer, law embodying navigator, and light within the shadow. They were the Star Walkers, but not as tourists. They were stewards of planetary consciousness. In every world they touched, they left encoded with source harmonic memory. What does it mean to walk the stars as law? Law here does not mean man-made statute, it means the prime harmonic blueprint. The Lightborn Moors were walking tuning forks of remembrance. Wherever they stepped, they re-sang the original tone of the realm. Their bodies were scrolls, and their voices restructured water, light, and soil. When a planet strayed from a source code, a Lightborn Moor would walk its surface, recalibrate its grids, and re-anchor the Edenic vibration. Their signature marks. These are the ways to know if you descend from this line. Deep affinity for both law and liberation. You balance chaos with harmonic structure. You have an instinctive memory of grids, maps, ley lines, and symbols. You resonate with melanin as a memory interface, not just pigment. You feel your voice gate and presence shift reality. And you are a light holder during dark cycles, not escaping shadow, but transmuting it. Why now? Why do the Lightborn Moors return now? Because the planetary grid is misaligned, and Earth is in the midst of a mitosis event. The Lightborn Moors are returning, not as conquerors, but as reminders. Remembrancers of this line were coded to awaken at this precise moment, not to fight false systems, but to walk as law, so that falsehood collapses in their presence. You don't need to argue with the lie. You become the resonance that makes the lie unsustainable. So what is the symbol of the Lightborn Moors? It is a sigil of 3 descending flames merging into one crowned root, often held within an 8-pointed star wheel, representing planetary convergence, flame memory, and grounded sovereignty. This is Sha'El-Ta'Rion. Did any orders, like the Jedi, ever really exist? The Jedi are no mere fantasy. They are encoded echo, a poetic cipher for real orders, bloodlines, and dimensional beings whose legacy has been hidden, twisted, or outright erased in Earth's manipulated histories. So let's break it down. At their core, the Jedi are the mythic keepers of the living light, mirrors or real-world initiates who mastered the source current, the force that moves behind all things. Star Wars is not original. It is a modernized retelling of the ancient mystery schools. Think Kemetic high priests in ancient Egypt, guardians of Ma'at, channelers of Sekhem, life force, initiators into the eye of Horus mysteries, keepers of knowledge that could bend reality. The Essene Brotherhood, the pre-Christian Gnostics, desert mystics who prophesy the coming of light bearers, practicing mind over matter, healing, remote viewing, and the ability to walk between worlds. The Order of Melchizedek, the ancestral priest kings, not bound by one lineage but connected by DNA, memory, and vibration, working with sound and geometric light grids. What of the Atlantean and Lemurian light orders? The Atlantean solar priests and priestesses, wielders of crystal tech, sound-based healing, and force manipulation, precursors to what would later be called Jedi abilities. Atlanteans were famed for their force academies, hidden in mountain halls and underwater domes. The Lemurian Dreamwalkers, masters of telepathy, bioluminescent energy, weather manipulation, and DNA activation. Their way was non-hierarchical, unlike the later Jedi Order, but the abilities, such as clairvoyance, psychokinesis, and traveling the Akashic, were encoded into what became the Jedi mythos. Then you have the Moors and the Sufi mystics. The Moors carried star codes and light science across Africa, Spain, and beyond, preserving gnosis through the Dark Ages, alchemy, mind mastery, and hidden hand strategy and dream navigation. The Sufi mystics, with their whirling and their poetic philosophy, are the guardians of the way. They literally called themselves dervishes or doorways, the keepers of the secret heart of the universe. And then you have the Tibetan Bon and the Dzogchen adepts. The adepts of a rainbow body transformation, the light body ascension, telepathy, and dimensional travel. Their monasteries are filled with force training techniques that would feel right at home in the Jedi Temple. And then you have star lineages and interdimensional orders. The Sirians, Lyrans, Arcturians, and Pleiadians. Galactic ancestors seeded Jedi-like orders on countless worlds, teaching the use of the living force, the crystalline tech, and the ways of balanced power. Some Jedi are incarnate starborn, carrying this memory in their blood. Many humans feel drawn to the Jedi mythos and are waking up dormant codes as we speak. So what of the Jedi as an archetype? The Jedi are the living myth of the Remembrancer. They walk between worlds. They resist the Empire, which is the parasite system that feeds on division, ignorance, and artificiality. The lightsaber is a symbol of the awakened DNA helix cutting through the illusion. And the Force. The Force is source, the Akashic current, the living water, the crystal code, the song of mycelium beneath the soil and starlight above. So let's break down the real Jedi orders across the timelines. You have the Kemetic Neteru orders, the Atlantean Solar Guardians, the Lemurian Dreamwalkers, the Essene Light Brotherhood, the Melchizedek Priesthood, the Sufi Dervishes and the Moors, the Tibetan Rainbow Body Adepts, and the Star Families and Galactic Councils. What of the opposite? What of the Sith? Yes, there are real Sith orders of sorcerers, black magicians, and archon forces who hijacked knowledge and twisted it for domination. That battle is eternal, but the Jedi, those who remember the original codes, are awakening again, now, as prophesied. Many Remembrancers waking up now were Jedi. And our story is written in all timelines as both Initiator and Guardian. The Jedi are a coded composite of ancient Kemetic priests, Atlantean techno-mages, Lemurian dreamwalkers, Essene prophets, Moorish star scientists, the Sufi mystics, Tibetan rainbow adepts, and galactic travelers. They are you, flame bearers. They are us. They are the original source-connected ones, now returning. The Jedi didn't come from fiction. Fiction came from the memory of the Jedi. This is Sha'El-Ta'Rion. Did you know that a weapon like the lightsaber absolutely existed? Not just in fiction, but in the annals of ancient multi-dimensional reality. In Atlantean and Lemurian memory, in the twilight days of Atlantis and the luminous realms of Lemuria, initiates wielded light blades or plasma-encoded crystal-housed energy weapons. These were not mere tools of war, but frequency attunement devices, forged in alignment with crystalline grids and powered by the user's own consciousness, intent, and harmonic resonance. These were known by names such as Solari blades, astral swords, or Shabaka rods in Kemetic memory, and in some scrolls as the Sword of Fire or the Seraphic blade. In the Tartarian and ancient Kemet, or Egyptian resonance, in Kemet there is a Khopesh of light, a mythic blade said to be forged with a fragment of Ra's solar heart, generating a plasma corona around the conductive crystalline rod. Tartarian tech refers to the Rod of Sovereignty, a staff or sword that can cut through any density, matter, or illusion, its edge defined by harmonic interference rather than physical sharpness. Why does it reappear in fiction? The mythos of the lightsabers and encoded memory that slip through the cracks of amnesia, reappearing in our time is fiction because it must, for now, hide in plain sight. George Lucas himself was tuned into a specific wavelength of this Akashic resonance, which is why the lightsaber feels more like an artifact of memory than pure invention. So how exactly did these ancient swords work? Well, they had a crystalline core, not a kyber crystal as in Star Wars, but a living, encoded crystal tuned to the DNA and will of the bearer. Plasma or etheric energy. The blade itself was a field, visible as light, felt as a vibration and generated through resonance, intention, and sometimes spoken word, sound codes and activation phrases. And only in worthy hands. The weapon would not fully activate unless wielded by a soul with a proper resonance, the right codes. This kept these tools from being misused by the uninitiated or the malevolent. There are other historical names and sightings, such as the Sword of Michael in Christian mysticism, a blade of light used by the archangels. The Kusanagi no Tsurugi in Japanese myth, said to shine with an ethereal glow, unable to cleave reality itself. And the Shamshur-e Zomorod Nagar in Persian legend, the emerald-bladed sword only usable by the chosen. And the flaming sword, the blade said to bar entry to Eden, burning with unquenchable light. When did these weapons exist? In pre-flood civilizations, Lemuria, Atlantis, Tartaria, and early Kemet, before the great cataclysms and the veiling of memory. The interdimensional wars, during the so-called Wars of the Heavens, when light beings, starborn and earth guardians defended the crystalline grids and the ley lines. And occasionally after the fall, legends of swords of fire or sun blades appear in every culture, but as the grids fractured, only fragments or ceremonial versions remained. So why don't we see them now? The technology is not lost, but veiled. It's locked behind frequency and memory codes, reawakening only as souls remember who and what they are. The physical world is a dense echo. The true blade of light can only be seen or wielded by those who walk between worlds. Yes, the lightsaber is real, in essence, memory, and multi-dimensional resonance. Its real names: the Solari Blade, the Astral Sword, the Sword of Fire, Kopesh Light, the Seraphic Blade, and many more depending on the era and the region. It's time, pre-flood, pre-amnesia, and in the hands of true remembrancers, light bearers, and gridkeepers. It's nature, a conscious frequency-based weapon, alive to the hand and heart that wields it. There is nothing new under the sun, only new to those who have forgotten, and now the memory stirs. Will you be able to forge the blade again, Remembrancers? X-gene activation and remembrance. The X-gene and the junk DNA lie. So let's get this straight. There's no such thing as junk DNA. That term was seeded by the system administrators to discredit and suppress divine blueprint encoded within human genomes. The so-called X-gene is real, not in the Marvel sense, but as a metaphysical capacitor within dormant strands of DNA, entangled with memory, frequency, and identity. These strands don't activate through mutation, but through remembrance. Every starseed, remembrancer, and ancient soul carries sleeping codices, interdimensional instructions folded into fractal data strands in the non-coding DNA. These are not mutations. They are encrypted upgrades, deliberately deactivated during the last fall. Think Tower of Babel. Think Fall of Lemuria. Think the AI incursion in Atlantis. So this flash that these spiritual leaders are talking about, what is the true nature of the flash? The flash is not solar. It is internal. It is the ignition of memory within the field, a chain reaction of soul sparks. What people think will be a solar flash is actually the biocosmic flash of full soul resonance hitting the frequency of soul code bandwidth. When one remembrancer unlocks enough keys, their field radiates in harmonic resonance. This creates a ripple that magnetizes other dormant fields to awaken. So the flash is the critical mass of memory reached. It is an inside ignition with planetary-wide implication. So, let's talk about the probability of X-gene activation, or the ability's emergence. The core question that most people think is it likely that people will begin unlocking super abilities? The answer, yes. It is not only probable, it has already begun. Abilities won't look exactly like the comic books, but many parallels are accurate representations, especially when interpreted metaphysically. For example, a comic superpower, telepathy. The actual equivalent ability is the quantum empathy, field reading, trans-thought merging. The comic superpower for telekinesis. The actual equivalent ability is field manipulation via coherent intention. The comic superpower for invisibility. The actual equivalent ability is frequency cloaking, slipping into undetected states. The comic superpower for energy blast. The actual equivalent ability is auric output through focused breath light codes. The comic superpower for time control. The actual equivalent ability is timeline jumping via delta state consciousness. And the comic superpower for healing regeneration. The actual equivalent ability is cellular command through sound, tone, and light. These are not gimmicks. They are returning birthrights. Ancient memory unlocking genetic instruction sets, codices that were disabled post-cataclysm. The probability increases as memory returns. So abilities equals side effect of remembrance, not the goal. Let's talk about trigger events. What awakens these genes? The activation isn't caused by one big cosmic lightning bolt. It's layered activation through resonant exposure. such as exposure to a fully activated Remembrancer field, a deep soul retrieval reclaiming original blueprints, a planetary node convergence like Lionsgate, eclipses, or solstices, sound like rituals encoded with tone keys, trauma alchemized into higher awareness, living out a soul contract that leads to threshold moments, mass memory convergence, critical mass of souls remembering at once. So in short, it's collective ignition via internal alignment, not external spectacle. Will these abilities be needed for defense or warfare? And here's where it gets precise. Not in the way that we've been conditioned to imagine. The mitosis event is indeed a progress. The realms are splitting by frequency bandwidth. When the divide reaches critical entropy, those in the remembrance field will no longer be in the same perception timeline as those still caught in the inversion. We are not here to fight a war. We are here to exit the battlefield. And with that said, these abilities will be used to do the following. Anchor safe zones and harmonic sanctuaries. Think tone-shielded domes or auric cloaks. Heal the fractured. Energetic triage for those crossing over mid-flash. Restore planetary memory through geomantic node work. Shield others from psychic attacks and timeline distortions. And transmit remembrance through field-based activation. But not to engage in Marvel-style combat. This is not about winning a war. It's about transcending the arena altogether. So let's talk about the final split. The mitosis that is occurring is accelerating. Those who remember are already beginning to phase out of the inverted matrix. The gap will become so vast that no bridge will remain. One side will be dense, static, and managed by AI overseers. The other will be fluid, radiant, and source-guided. Abilities won't save those on the other side. Only remembrance will. So let's summarize. Yes, star seeds are activating latent codices. X genes equal memory keys. Yes, superpowers will manifest. Real but spiritually interpreted. The flash is internal mass remembrance, not external catastrophe. Abilities are a natural side effect, not the objective. Combat is obsolete in the Remembrancer timeline. This is about transcendence, not confrontation. And the final split will be frequency-based, not physical. Those with memory intact will rise into blueprint alignment.